Hey, I'm Laurie and welcome back to the Diaries of the Neuro-Spicy Coach. So today I'm going to be covering toxic friends and toxic partners, and I'll also give you a little bit of an intake of my wedding and what went down, because I know so many people ask me why I had two weddings. So I'm going to talk about this through my own experience, and just because when I talk to clients, because I'm very open with my clients, do you know what I mean? They relate quite a bit. So I just hope that this helps others and to know that you're not broken. We have a higher rate to be trapped in toxic friendships, toxic relationships because RSD, people pleasing, and we tend to think very low of ourselves as well. We don't think we're actually worthy of being loved, etc. So I was in an abusive relationship for a very long time. From the age of like 14 to I want to say 23, on and off, had a bit of a break in the middle. But the scary thing about it was I didn't realize it was an abusive relationship until I was out of it. And speaking to so many of my clients, it's the same for them as well. Like, they don't know it's abusive, even though, like, to the outside person looking in, it's quite clear, and your friends might tell you, but it's almost like we sort of dismiss it in a way. It was abusive in a way of like physical and like mental as well. And honestly, like, physical sounds bad, but mental's worse. Like, what someone can say to you and you start believing is like horrific. I literally lost every ounce of confidence that I had. It destroyed friendships. I was arguing with my family because obviously they could clearly see what was going on. Not to the extent, because again, like, I stuck up for that person more times than once. And not even because I was like lying, because I generally believed it, because they tend to be master manipulators, so it's like we sort of believe what they tell us. And I think it's always so calculated, because at the start of the relationship it's always amazing and it's always like the best thing ever, and you love them so much and your dopamine's so high. And even for like a narcissist, that's how it tends to go. It tends to be really good in the beginning, and then the cracks start to show 6 months plus. That's when things start to become more controlling, so it's like, oh, you can't do this, or you can't wear that, you can't go and see this person, I don't like that person. That starts to happen like 6 months in. But for me, it was about, I want to say maybe like a year and a half in, which is a long time. So I don't really know what happened, or if something sparked something for that person to turn like that. But mine was like a long period of time. So for me, it was my first love. It was like who I lost my virginity to. So it was a big thing in my life. And obviously to lose that was like absolutely not. My friends would like sleep with him behind my back. And I'd always stick up for him because he would obviously deny it. And those girls definitely weren't going to tell me, what was going on. So I just believed it. And I was like, right, okay, well, even though it's very much obvious, but because both parties were telling me it wasn't true, like, I was like, for an easy life, because we choose comfort. We always choose comfort. We would rather pick long-term pain than temporary pain, because that's what it is. Like, if we chose to close that door, it would be temporary pain. It'd hurt until it doesn't. Whereas when we stay comfortable, it's long-term pain, because you're living there, and we know that getting back with them, it'll be back to being good for a very short period of time until it goes back really toxic again. And as I said, like, I knew him from school, so I think we were friends when I was 11 years of age. So it was a massive part of my life. But the worst thing for me was the things he said, I started believing. And I think that's like the hardest thing. And even when you can see how horrific they treated you, you still think about those good times instead of the bad times. And it's like with ADHD, it's out of sight, out of mind. So it's like we always forget how bad it is, so it's like it's horrendous. So that went on for a long time, and I remember it was like on Facebook, it was like a cheating page. He was always in there. My family would see it, but again, I'd stick up for him, but like, oh no, like it's not true. He's not done that, you know, and you just normalize it, but you stick up for that person because you love them and you'll do anything for them, even though they wouldn't do everything for you. So I was with this person, as I say, have a big part of my life. But when we ended, I started like bodybuilding just before I'd got back with this person. Um, Obviously COVID hit and things like that. Again, it was like good days and bad days. But I remember thinking, right, enough is enough. So I moved up to Kent basically during COVID, and he was the person who was like, it was a really weird time. He was almost like, yes, go, like how amazing, but then like, how have he chosen you? Like, you know, because it was basically an apprenticeship with my old coach. He was like, you know, I've been coaching longer than you, like I'm basically better than you, like you're thick, like you won't get it. And I was just like, oh right, okay, like, but at the time I was in a job that I hated, so it was a bit like boosting me up to go, but then also being like, yeah, go, but just don't forget who you are because you're this stupid little girl who's a slag, like, do you know what I mean? Because that's what they used to say to me. And I remember it got so bad that I was like, do you know what, I'm going to take all my stuff from this person's house. I'm never going to speak to him again. Like, and when I go down there, I'm just going to break the news then, because if I tried to end a relationship, it would go really, really physical, to the point where I'd be obviously scared for my life, honestly, because he's a freaking nutter. Yeah, nutter. So when I did move down, obviously I was down here on my own, didn't know anyone, obviously undiagnosed as well. It was scary, and I missed home. Like, I remember sitting in on my birthday, sat in the flat on my own. It was raining, and I was like, oh, I have no friends to even go and see or do anything. And it was at that time where I was really vulnerable. He was like, shall I quit my job and move down? And that's what he did. But it was almost like he slowly started taking over my life. So obviously we had the same coach. I worked in the gym. He asked if he could work in the gym. So I was literally around this person all of the time. So it was almost like he's keeping the tightest eye on me at all times to make sure that I was doing the things that he wanted me to do, you know. And it quickly declined. And one of the biggest things that I remember was I had my space in the flat, so it was like my stuff in a way that I wanted it to be. Like, I have a place for like everything, and if something got like moved, I'd become really like distressed. And when he moved his things in, I was just like, I remember panicking, but I remember like so scared not to have a meltdown, because I was scared he was just gonna hurt me or say something really horrible towards me, you know. So that was really distressing. Like, I hated that. And then as time went by, I was like, I really don't want to be with this person. And I remember trying to leave twice. The first time, like, he threatened to kill himself, and that's typical narcissistic behavior. He literally cried on the floor until he was sick, and I was like, oh God. And he was like, I'm just gonna drive home now. And obviously being an empath, and I was like, oh bless, like I can't do that, like it's horrendous. And then we just sort of stayed together. We didn't sleep together or anything for like a good 12 months. Like, it was just such a toxic environment. I remember like working in the gym, like I was obviously prepping for a show. I would be down in the gym like 2:30 in the morning. Do not recommend that, by the way. Like, horrific, horrific. But I remember not going home until he was going to bed, and he'd go to bed 8 p.m. every single night. So I would stay in the gym from 2:30 in the morning until like 10 o'clock at night, just to make sure that he wasn't awake and he couldn't say anything to me or couldn't do anything to me that was going to harm me in any way. Because I where I lived was like a flat, I had a balcony, and honestly I used to have nightmares of him throwing me off it. Like, it would get to that bad. It was horrendous. And as time went on, I remember thinking, right, I can't do this. And he literally like blew his lid. Like, he went mental, really red in the face. Like, it was, you can't even say anything to even calm someone down like that either. The more I was like trying to make the situation better, I was making it worse. And I remember just having to like run out of my house for him to calm down. I was like, I'm literally trapped in this house because I can't afford the rent on my own because I was an apprentice. And then I also didn't want to be hurt from trying to throw this person out. And then I thought, if I do move out, everything was in my name. I know he would have left and I would have had 2 lots of rent, and that's literally what happened in the end. I remember thinking like I need to leave. Like I was so scared for my life. Like I wasn't living, I wasn't sleeping at all. Um Obviously didn't tell anyone because no one believed me. That was the worst part, that no one believed me. Like I remember towards the end I spoke to some of the people in the gym who worked there as well, and I could just see them rolling their eyes at me, or like thinking like, oh, she's dramatising that. Like I could just see the looks on their faces, you know. And it was only then when like the cracks started to show. Like I remember on an exercise, and I remember he asked me for a spot or something like that it was, and I was like, I'll be there now. And he literally just squared up to me and was like, what the fuck did you say? And one of my friends, who's a guy, heard it and he was like, you touch it and I'll put you 10 foot under. And that's when people started to see. And honestly, I was so relieved, because I was like, am I the problem? Am I being dramatic? Am I making this worse in my head than what it is? Do you know what I mean? And I think we're neurodivergent people, we tend to be more anxious and more, you know, things. Do you know what I mean? So that was happening. And I remember that enough was enough. I remember literally thinking, I'm going to write a letter. I'm just going to write a note down, explain everything, because I could never speak to him. And I remember I fled my home. I literally fled, moved in with someone. I had to pay rent. Again, it wasn't a lot of rent. I think it was like £400. But still, when you're on like less than minimum wage, having a flat which is like 750 and then another flipping room which is like 400 quid, it was a lot. And I remember, again, narcissistic, like for me, crying, I'm so sorry, I didn't know I've made you feel like that. But I basically recorded him. So when he was abusive, I recorded, and I'm so glad I did, because I think I would still probably be trapped there now or dead. Honestly, that's how scary it was. I recorded it every time he was like saying to me like, oh, I love you so much, blah, 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 blah. I'd watch this recording and I'd be like, nah, because again, out of sight, out of mind, you always remember the good times, you never remember the bad. And I remember just listening to it, and for some reason I still have it on my phone now, and I think it's because I'm scared to this day that someone will say to me that I was bullshitting, because of course he accused me of being a liar, of course he did, do you know what I mean? So I've still got it on my phone. Obviously I don't listen to it now, but obviously at that time it really helped. And I remember showing this video to the people I work with, and one of the girls literally cried. And she was like, I didn't want to not believe you. Of course I believed you, but I didn't know to the extent, because he comes across as an absolute angel. He's so funny. And I was like, but this is what it is. Narcissists, they don't get called out because they're so freaking good at what they do. And I remember I fled my home 3 weeks out from my show. Probably the best thing ever that I was in prep, because I think my head would have fallen off. But I think being neurodivergent, once I'm done, I'm done. Like, there's no going back. Like, there's nothing, like I don't feel anything. I'm completely numb to the situation, but not numb in a toxic way. Like, I'm done. I've cried over you. That's it. Goodbye. Blocked. That's it. And I've never gone back since, obviously, because I'm married now. But I know I'm sharing this story because I know how common this is, and you're not alone. And I know, like, he used to call me stupid all the time, and that was like the biggest thing that used to upset me so much, because I used to have to try triple as hard in school because I didn't have good grades. So I always thought I was just stupid, and I used to say that, oh, I'm thick, I'm stupid. And I just think people have enough nasty things to say about someone, do you know what I mean, by judgment or whatever. Why are we doing that to ourselves? Do you know what I mean? And it's almost like if we say it to ourselves, if someone else says it, it won't hit as hard, and it's so sad. But the same thing can happen to friendships, and honestly, I've been there. I've literally been there. Like, my friendship groups have gone smaller and smaller and smaller over the years. And I think the biggest thing for me being autistic is I really struggle with who's acquaintances and who's friends. And I've got shown that over the years, time and time again. And it hits hard, because it's like you reflect, like, am I a crappy friend? You've analyzed conversations, like, did I say anything wrong? Like, you know, it's like huge. And like, I remember, like, one of my, who was meant to be my bridesmaid, she ended up not being. Like, I remember she was choosing, you know, a photo shoot over coming to my hen, and I was like, in my head, like, that's so much for me to try and understand, because I'm like, I would literally, if someone said now, like, jump in front of that bus to save this person, I would do it. And that's like how loyal I am. I will do anything in my power to like help someone. I'll always see like the absolute best in people, and I'll do anything that I can to make sure that, you know, they're happy. Do you know what I mean? And that's how I've always been. And even from like as a youngster, like teen, when I was with my ex, like when they used to cheat on me and things like that, I never used to get angry. I'd be like, oh, okay, like it's fine. Like, you know, just always see the best in people because they were my friends. Like I remember going out, and my dad would always drive me and my friends, shall we say. And I remember going to a nightclub with fake ID, and literally I didn't get in. They left me outside on my own, and like that's what I've been faced with all my life. But they weren't ever friends. Like, of course they weren't. They were sleeping with my ex but my back, and as soon as they had a reason to like leave me, they did. And you know, I realized they only bother with me because my dad will give us lifts. Do you know what I mean? And it's such a bitter pill to swallow, and especially as like a child where you've struggled to make friends. When you do have a friendship group, you put all your energy into them, but then when you realize that actually they would never do the same, not even 10% of what you do, it becomes really sad, because again, you just think, am I stupid? Am I weird? And even like now, like as I said, like one of the girls was meant to be a bridesmaid and then didn't end up being. And you know, it was like, would do anything for her, and then she was like trying to sabotage my business, and I didn't even know until someone that knew her told me like, oh, like, you know, I'd love to coach with you, but you charge £600 a month. And I was like, what? Who said that? And she was like, oh, you know, this girl. And I was like, literally stabbed me, because I used to live with this person as well 4 years. Do you know what I mean? And I was just like, why would she do that? And she was like, I don't get why she'd lie about that, because she literally was like so proud of Lowry, like she's smashing it, she's charging £600, like such a calculated way as well. But like my heart broke, and obviously where then she chose a photo shoot over my hen as a bridesmaid, like, and by the way, the photo shoot was more money than my hen as well, which is wild. It was just like a bitter pill to swallow. But like, I think in this life you need to not change yourself to not be hurt, because I know that I gave a lot, but I never want to change that for me. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, there's people in the wedding that I no longer speak to, which is really sad, because I thought that they'd be in my life forever and ever and ever. And people start showing their true colours to yourself. Do you mean? They realise that like some people will be with you to take what they want, and then they'll drop you when they no longer need you. And that's when I realised, okay, that friend was an acquaintance and not a friend. And it's sad that we sometimes can't tell that until after the heartbreak is done, because it is heartbreaking. I felt like I was going through an actual relationship breakup. It's sad, like it broke my heart. It really broke my heart. You know, I had therapy over it and things like that. But don't stop being a good person just for someone else. Do you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, we've got enough shitty people in the world. Like, we don't need to be shitty people. Like, keep being a lush person, like keep being the person who gives and loves a lot. Do you know what I mean? Because we make up the small percentage of the good people in the world. Do you know what I mean? But as I mentioned my wedding in the last podcast, so I will fill you in on that, especially because again, this is where I think like ADHD and autism really like contradict each other and really like go against each other. I always thought that I wanted a big wedding. And honestly, it was horrendous. Like, obviously I got to marry my best friend, and that's another thing. Like, after being in a toxic relationship, I never thought I'd be married. Like, I never thought I'd be worthy. And I met Ben, and then he proposed to me, and I was like, wow, didn't ever think it. And he's honestly an angel. I'll do a podcast with Ben because he's neurodivergent as well. And yeah, we'll do a fun one with Ben. But when we got married, I was like, oh, I want a big wedding. Like, I want all my family there. It's going to be amazing. That was the ADHD speaking in me. Like, that was full ADHD. And then the day of the wedding, it was like full autism. I was like, whoa, I hate this. The wedding was horrendous. I hated the full day. I did have a videographer, and honestly, I am grateful that I did, because the things that went well and was highlighted, I wasn't present for. Like, I didn't pay attention to it at all. And as I said, like, it was already tarnished because one of my best friends that I thought was my best friend wasn't there, you know, so that was like crap. So that was like the start of like the shit. But as I said to like my last episode, like my dress didn't fit. And as an autistic person, everything needs to go right. Everything needs to go right. Everything needs to be perfect. If it's not perfect, like, you have a meltdown. And one of the things I've got to learn is, like, perfection is an illusion. It's not, it doesn't exist. Like, it only exists in our brain of what we've created then. So that week leading up to my wedding, obviously I didn't know if I was gonna have a dress, which was like fun. But again, I handled it so well. I was like, right, that's fine. It is what it is. It's just a dress. You know, it's gonna be the best day ever. Shoes broke. And I was like, cool, love this for me. So I had to borrow my cousin's. So the shoes you've probably all seen in my Instagram, if you've been following me for a while, they weren't my shoes. They weren't the shoes I was meant to have. They were literally given to me on the day of the wedding. So I was like, right, okay. And then my hairdresser showed up late. So I don't know if you've seen my photos, but my hair was not meant to look like that. He was extremely late, and obviously being autistic, I could not deal with that. Like, everything needs to run on time. Like, I scheduled this wedding for it to have, like, run smoothly, but I had gaps to breathe, essentially. So it was meant to be like, wake up in the morning, like, with my girls, have a glass of Prosecco, have, like, the grazing board, get ready, and then have an hour just to enjoy with my girls before going, getting excited. It didn't happen like that. I literally got rushed out of the door. Yeah, and he showed up. I had like 20 minutes to do my hair, and I was like, cool. I had like 3 hours, basically. He did have 3 hours to do it, but he's ADHD too, believe it or not. Obviously blindness bit him in the ass, because all my girls looked beautiful. All the bridesmaids just looked stunning. Like, their makeup, their hair looked unreal. I did not. Like, my makeup looked stunning because Chantel did an amazing job. But my hair was just horrendous. I wanted like Hollywood waves, like sleek, but my hair is naturally like a frizz bomb. It's like Hagrid, essentially. And I remember him saying to me, like, what's the time? And I was like, we've got 20 minutes. And I could just see his face like drop. And I was like, okay, that's when shit hit the fan. That's when I was like panicking. I was like, right, okay, because if someone's rushing me and panicking around me, I mimic that energy, because I'm like, oh shit, do you know what I mean? And I remember having my hair done, it looked horrendous. They curled my hair and they basically just brushed it from the top of the roof down. Now, any of my frizzy hair girls know that that's a recipe for disaster, because it literally just went huge. It was just expanded, and I was like, oh my God. Like, the only way I could describe it was, I washed my hair, allowed it to air dry, and then tried to tongue it over the top. Like, it was just so bad. I remember just my friend Fliss was like, there with the dress. I literally had to run straight to my bedroom, throw the dress on, didn't even look at myself in the mirror. So my heart was literally racing. I remember my veil was in, but it was on the side of my head, and I was just overstimulating because I knew it wasn't centered to my head. Rushing to the taxi, I was over an hour late. Poor Ben thought that I stood him up because we were late. Got to the venue, the veil fell out, because it was no product on my hair. It was silky smooth. It was a long ass flipping veil, and it was literally like just slipping through my head. Now, we had nothing on us. We had no hairspray, no comb, no nothing. And I remember like, and it was I look back now and it was funny, because this is really when I noticed my girls being neurodivergent, like my bridesmaids, because I had one pacing, I had one just frantically like trying to do my hair, and they're all just like had their own little ways of dealing with this, because it was honestly it was dramatic. And I remember like just breaking down in tears, because this veil was not going in my head. I could feel it slipping. I cried my makeup off, so I literally looked like I had like black eyeshadow under my eyes. I didn't. I just cried it all off. I didn't have no makeup on me to fix it. When I cry, I do an ugly cry. Like, I go puffy and red. The wedding venue was amazing. They were so good. Give me Prosecco, give me everything I needed. But luckily my hairdresser came and just threw it back in for me. And I was like, cool. By then, I did not want to walk down that aisle. My aisle honestly looked horrendous. I look back at the video and like all I can see is my dress bagging, the shoes that I did not want to wear. My hair, I had like a swoopy fringe. Like, it's meant to be like almost like a quiff. It was like a swoopy fringe. We were back in like 2012, do you know what I mean? Which is not a look. And yeah, I just broke my heart. I just thought, you know, I saw Ben and I thought like everything was better. It was so stunning. I was like, right, you know, get a grip. It's just a dress. It's just your hair. It's just your makeup. Just have a good day. You paid so much money. Like, enjoy it. and we had the food and the sweeties and it was amazing. And then we went to take the dogs home because obviously late in the night, Theo kept jumping the pen. So the workers were honestly like running ragged with him, bless him, save their souls. We couldn't because my hairdresser had lost my Airbnb key because he was so late. He stayed in my Airbnb so he could get ready. He was like, I said, yeah, just when you come, just give me the key. And he was like, I don't have it. And I was like, what do you mean you do not have it? Like, he was like, no, I give it to this person, I give it to this person. It's just changed all the time. And I honestly think he panicked. And if he just turned around and said to me, do you know what? Like, I'm so sorry. I rushed up the house. I didn't lock the door, still in the Airbnb. I would have been like, it's absolutely fine. Don't worry about it. Don't stress. But instead, we had nowhere to stay. The dogs, we were all having to flipping babysit my 2 dogs. My brother missed 4 hours of the wedding, literally running around looking for this Airbnb key. Everything got pushed back. My evening guests had to wait outside for about 40 minutes. Like, when I could just see the day just unraveling before my eyes, I was just like, I'm done. I want to go home. Like, I'm just so done. I was obviously on the phone to the Airbnb people. Like, I'm so sorry, I've lost the key. They were like, can you come meet me? And I was like, it's my freaking wedding day. Like, I don't know what I'm meant to be doing. It got resolved at 9:30 as my brother literally drove back to the Airbnb, found a spare key. So we're like, right, okay, we've got somewhere to stay. And that was 9:30 the night. I literally had like an hour left of my day. And I remember the next day, and by the way, went to the Airbnb, the key was there. So he'd left it in there the whole time. And I was just like, I wish you could have just told me that, because it would have saved my day. I could have easily fixed my hair, could have easily fixed my makeup, my dress. I had an evening dress anyway, would have been fine. And the next day I remember just in the Airbnb on my own, in the toilet, and I just cried because I've been planning this for 2 years, over 2 years. Spent so much money on this wedding, and I hated it. I never wanted to be reminded of it ever again. And I remember Mia just coming in being like, because Mia just panics and she sees me upset as well. She was like, you know, what's going on? And I cried for 3 days because I was just like, this is horrendous. Like, in my head, I think as a neurodivergent women, we feel so much more deeper than a neurotypical. So I was just like, I'd met someone that I never thought I was going to meet. I'm getting married. I never thought I was going to get married. I planned this amazing day for us both because Ben obviously didn't plan anything, typical man. And it was so much we were meant to do. Like, we had a band. No one enjoyed the band. Like, we had beer pong. Like, it was so much things that we did that I planned, or like the small details. Nothing happened with any of it. So I was just like heartbroken. So that's why you probably saw that I had a second wedding. No, I'm not made of money. Honestly, I'm still paying my wedding off now. But I just needed a better memory of it because I didn't want to look at the photos. Like, I did not want to look at them. Like, and I felt really rude because I was so overstimulated. I snapped at the photographer, and honestly, I wanted to just throw myself in the lake because I was like, I hate when I get to that point where I snap. You only want to take a photo of me, and I was like, can you just get my face? Everyone's fussing me, like, just leave me alone. So the poor man obviously wasn't able to do his job properly because I was overstimulated and I didn't want anyone to take a photo of me because I felt the ugliest I've ever felt in my life. I felt horrific. My face was just puffy all day. But I had the second wedding, and honestly, guys, like, the biggest thing I've learned from that, and I hope that it'll bring you some awareness as well, is like, you do not need a big wedding. You do not need to spend a lot of money to have the most perfect wedding ever. If you are autistic, like, and ADHD, like, don't convince yourself to have a big wedding if you know that you can't tolerate it. Because we literally had the second wedding in a coffee shop. It was the most beautiful thing ever. Like, I had AK as my photographer, and she just freaking did an amazing job. She literally went to a uni day all day with her son and then drove back and did this for me, honestly. We just had like a little balloon display. I just had like my bridesmaids and the groomsmen, mine and Ben's family. That was it. I think it cost us like 500 quid to do it. We had the DJ that we wanted, and it was the best day of my life. And I think I grieved over that as well, and being like, wow, I've spent a shit ton of money on this wedding that I hated, and I've gone and spent £500 on a wedding, and I loved it. And the funny thing is, with my dress, I had it taken in for the second one. The first person, what was it, like £360 she charges to do my dress, and it was horrendous. I literally risked and paid someone 20 quid to take the dress in, and it fitted me like the glove. Like, honestly, the heels that I wanted, I was able to have it. I was able to have my hair and makeup exactly how I wanted it. I had the photographer I wanted, and it was just perfect. But it just means that, like, don't be pressurized, because I was pressurized as well. Like, being a people pleaser, I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll do that. Like, the dress I wanted wasn't originally the one I wanted, but my mum was like, oh, if you have it now, I'll pay for it. And I was like, oh, well, I'm not gonna miss that opportunity up, you know. But just stand your ground and set boundaries, because this is your day. And, like, don't worry about the minor details, because honestly, on the day you won't even think about them. You'll just have fun, hopefully, not like me. But yeah, I think once we've been in so many toxic relationships and friendships, we never think that we'll end up having a wedding, or having, like, I couldn't believe I had a wedding with the man that I loved, and, like, you know, having like Mia, Amber, my cousin, Fliss, all as my bridesmaids. Like, I was just so grateful that I had a group of girls who did amazing for me, because when I was going through the meltdown, like, my poor cousin was pregnant with twins, but Fliss and Mia and Amber were just amazing, like, just amazing with me. And I've just felt all this gratitude of having such a shit few years to having this amazing thing of being like, wow, I feel so lucky. So if you are going through a shit time with a friend or a partner, like, life does get better, and we're all on our own timing. Like, I didn't meet my partner until later on. Like, I got married when I was 29, do you know what I mean? So later, some people get married later on. Don't compare yourself to anyone else. Just trust the timing of your life, honestly. But I hope you enjoyed this podcast. This was a little bit of a vulnerable one, because I've never dug deep into any of those before. I didn't want to dig too deep in, just and mention names, because peaceful life and all that, they'll know who they are. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed listening to that. And if you got any recommendations of what you'd like me to speak about next time, let me know.